So hey anime fans. The series name is What If Naruto Married Vampire? So let's start the series. Fears can be banished, but dangers cannot. We must not revere death to the detriment of life. The gods Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun, and Tsukiyomi, the god of the moon, created humans in the image of the two divine races, the vampires and the angels. These two races have long been at odds with one another, with neither race winning, and the two deities, who were actually brothers and sisters, have long sought a truce between the two races, a unity. For thousands of years, humans have thought they were in control of their world, but this is untrue. The gods saw great potential in a young boy, no older than 10, who had been the victim of much cruelty in his life, and the cruelty of the village he lived in had long gone unpunished. For this reason, on a cloudy October evening, the gods looked down from the heavens to bring their gift to the poor child. In the village of Hyde. It was a few days before his 11th birthday, and the villagers had been especially cruel. Naruto had escaped with only a few broken bones, but his scalp was split open when someone threw a large rock at the back of his head. His wounds had healed, as they always did, but it did nothing to ease his rage at his unfair fate. He wandered through the forest of Hyde Village, glaring up at the moon. His blonde hair was matted down with blood, and his white shirt was stained crimson. He muttered to himself, "I would do anything to end this suffering." "Anything?" he heard a voice behind him say. He quickly turned around, but he saw no one. "Who's there?" he inquired, getting ready to run if necessary. And as he looked around again, he saw two strangers standing in front of them, and he could sense waves of strength emanating from them. The taller one, a man with silver hair, was hidden by the long black and silver cloak he wore around his entire body, and he seemed to absorb all the light in the room. The first, a woman with long golden hair and a long white and gold dress, seemed to burn with a fierce fire in her eyes. "What are you looking for?" "I am Tsukiyomi, and this is my sister, Amaterasu," he said cautiously. "Our purpose is to provide you with a chance to end your pain." Tsukiyomi's brows narrowed. "Even your humanity?" Naruto's eyes widened, knowing who these people were. "I'll give anything to be rid of this hell." "What?" with surprise, Naruto questioned. "My humanity?" Amaterasu nodded. "Are you prepared to break free from the bonds this community has set around you and to leave the limitations of humanity? Are you prepared to transform into something far more than a person?" After giving it some thought, Naruto said, "Yes." The two gods grinned, and each extended a hand. A ball of gleaming light appeared in Amaterasu's hand, while a ball of shadow appeared in Tsukiyomi's, sucking the light from the surrounding area. "Place your hands on these orbs, child, and take the first step into your freedom." When Naruto stepped forward cautiously, he placed one hand on each of the orbs, and the orbs were absorbed into the palm of his hand, and his entire chakra network felt like it was on fire. His bones broke and reshaped, his muscles tore and reformed, and his hair turned from blonde to silver with black streaks, his eyes turned a deep red. And he felt a tearing sensation in his back before a large pair of skeletal wings erupted from his back, bare of feathers. But soon the shadows formed on the wings, turning them into black, silver-tipped feathers. After an hour of suffering as his body tore itself apart and reformed, he gasped for breath and stumbled to his feet, panting, looking back at the two gods, only to discover them gone. A small scroll lay on the ground where they stood, and Naruto approached it and picked it up. He opened it and read, "Naruto, you are the first half-vampire, half-angel hybrid the world has ever seen. You have the strengths of both, and the weaknesses of either. You will need to eat because you are half-vampire. You can control light and shadows, and combine them like no one else can. You can also use the secondary elements of each race. Fire for angels, wind for vampires. Your human chakra has been replaced by a fusion of vampire and angel chakra. You are now their leader, and they will follow your commands. This scroll contains weapons that will aid you in your conflicts. Take pleasure in your newfound freedom. Looking at the back of his hands, he saw the markings the scroll spoke of. On the back of his left hand was the image of a sun, and on his right hand was the image of the moon. He opened the scroll further, until he came across a seal. He channeled chakra into it, and into his hands appeared a regular-looking katana and a strange device he had never seen before. There was an envelope attached to the sheath of the katana. Naruto opened the envelope, and read the letter within. These are very special weapons. They were designed specifically for you. The first weapon is the katana. This weapon has 3 levels. This is the first. The others will be unlocked as you use the weapon. In this first level, just concentrate while running your chakra through it to change it between a katana, a zanbatsu, and a double-ended spear. The next weapon we crafted for you is a weapon that has not been seen in this world for centuries. It is known as a gun, and when you pull the trigger, it launches a small metal projectile at incredible speeds. However, this is not a normal gun. Instead of the normal projectiles known as bullets, this gun fires special bullets that you can imbue with your power. You do not need to worry about ammunition either. The bullets replicate automatically, giving you an infinite supply. Please note that these weapons do not make you invincible, and you should not rely on them. Be sure to train all of your abilities equally. Taking that advice to heart, Naruto nodded, gathered his new weapons, and disappeared into the shadows. Academy graduation was in 4 years, and he would need to train his new powers. After 4 years. Initially, it had taken Naruto a few weeks to adjust to his new body and abilities, but he did love flying a lot. He had learned that his wings were made of some sort of supernatural material because they could stop even rounds from his rifle. Over the years, the 2 gods had visited him multiple times, and each time they had given him advice on how to use his various angelic and vampiric abilities, as well as his light and darkness powers. He had found that the combination of his light and shadow abilities was the most potent, and he had given it the nickname Hakumaiten, or Twilight Release. The 2 orbs he had absorbed to initiate his metamorphosis had turned out to be 2 souls, the soul of a vampire and the soul of an angel. The vampire's name had been Alucard, the leader of the vampires and the strongest vampire in history, and the angel's name had been Abaddon, the leader of the angels and the strongest angel in history before he died. The 2 had slain each other in a great battle centuries ago. Naruto had been informed that he would eventually have access to the entire power of these spirits, but not until he really needed it, so he had been dismayed to find that he did not have that yet. He had also created a taijutsu style, the Grey Fist, which was composed of 2 distinct styles, the Black Fist, which was centered on swift and vicious attack, and the White Fist, which was more aggressive defense. While researching kenjutsu styles, he discovered that he didn't need one. He was a natural at kenjutsu and could adjust to any situation in a kenjutsu battle. He was also different from the orange-clad knucklehead he had posed as for 4 years. He was about 6 feet even, his muscles were very well defined, compact to the point of looking like they were carved from stone, his hair had straightened out, and he wore only a pair of black combat boots and a pair of black baggy pants, his wings essentially making it impossible to wear a shirt, and he wore a holster for his gun on his hip. Sword in hand, he stood on his apartment's roof and gazed out over the village, saying to himself, "Get ready, Hyde Village." He melted into black smoke and whispered, "I'm about to unleash hell." The Academy. Yumino Irika glanced at his class, crossing names off his page, and scowled when he saw Naruto's name. The blonde was always on time, even if he would doze off during class and not pay attention. Just as he was about to mark Naruto as late, the door opened. A stranger in black with silver and black hair and a big set of wings walked into the classroom with a sword, and everyone stared at the door. "Am I late?" the stranger asked. Irika's eyes widened as he saw the whisker marks on the stranger's face. "Naruto? How did you fare?" When they learned that Naruto was standing in front of them, everyone gasped. The orange-wearing loser you saw earlier was not me, Naruto retorted to Irika. Irika shook his head and said, Well, I was only acting like that. Why do you have wings? Trying to determine what to say, Naruto stared at him before deciding to just tell him the truth. I'm half vampire, half angel. To the class's surprise, he responded, No human. After all, what in hell were they going to do about it? The girl with the pink hair who was sitting next to Naruto's companion got up and exclaimed, Yes, Naruto. Most likely, you're just wearing a henge. Sit down and stop trying to appear cool. Haruno, the only thing that makes me sicker than my 4 years of pretending to have a crush on you is the fact that someone like you would actually be considered qualified to be a kunoichi, Naruto said. He glared at her. Now either you close your mouth or I'll do it for you. The class was stunned by Naruto's speech to Sakura and began whispering to one another. Since there was nowhere else to sit, Naruto took the vacant seat next to Hinata, who was flushed. This is the first portion of the graduation exam, Irika said, calling on the students to quiet down. His aide, Mizuki, then handed out the exams. You have 30 minutes. As the class started writing down their responses, Naruto saw that his paper had a genjutsu on it. Choosing to fuck whoever had placed it there, he quietly cancelled it and went on to write down the right answers. At the end of the half hour, he turned in his paper along with the other students, and they all went outside. Shuriken and kunai throwing is the next part of the exam, Irika said. You'll get 10 of each, and you'll throw them at the targets. Eventually they got to Naruto. Naruto's friend had the highest score so far, scoring 17 out of 20 bullseyes. Naruto accepted his kunai and shuriken and launched them all at the targets. The kunai hit first, each one scoring a bullseye. Then the shuriken followed, splitting each kunai straight down the middle and embedding firmly in the targets. Irika whistled. Great job, Naruto. On this section, you received the highest score. Irika announced, It's time for the taijutsu portion. And they all moved to the taijutsu field. After a few battles, Naruto Buddy was called. All right, Naruto friend, who would you like to fight? You will choose your opponent and engage in a straight taijutsu match without any weapons or jutsu. To which he replied, Naruto. The two moved into fighting stances, with Naruto facing him and using the basic academy stance, while Naruto was adopting a stance that none of them had ever seen before. Naruto's friend rushed at him, kicking him in the gut, but Naruto blocked the blow and punched him back in the face, sending him back a few feet and landing on his feet. He spat out some blood and rushed back at Naruto, who then came at him as well. Naruto's friend leaped into the air, trying to kick Naruto in the head, but Naruto ducked and punched upwards, hitting Naruto's friend in the nuts. Winner, Naruto. He winced as he looked at Naruto's friend on the ground, still rolling around in pain, staring at his list as he called the next name. Naruto, you're next. Naruto's friend fell clumsily to the ground, clutching himself. His groans of pain were enough to let Irika know he wasn't getting back up. Who would you like to battle? This is great. Time to put that demon in its place, said Naruto. Mizuki-sensei. Irika raised an eyebrow, and Mizuki smiled to himself. Mizuki walked over to face Naruto, and they both got into their fighting stances. When the match began, Mizuki quickly rushed at Naruto, hoping to catch him off guard. He punched at Naruto's stomach, but was blocked. Naruto kicked him in the stomach, knocking the air out of him. Naruto then punched him in the gut twice and in the face, knocking him away. Angered, Mizuki ran at Naruto with a kunai. He slashed at Naruto's face, but was bet by Naruto's sword. Mizuki threw away the kunai and pulled out a ninjato, slashing at Naruto's gut. Naruto blocked the blow and thrust towards Mizuki's heart, missing by a hair's breadth. He slashed Mizuki across the chest, slicing through the Chunin vest and leaving a cut across Mizuki's chest. Mizuki yelled in anger and thrust toward Naruto, aiming to impale him. Naruto swept the sword away and punched Mizuki in the face. Catching his wrist, Naruto twisted, forcing Mizuki to drop his blade. He grabbed Mizuki by the hair and threw him face first into a nearby tree. Mizuki hit with a crunch, and Naruto was there waiting for him. He put his sword at Mizuki's throat. Iruka and the rest of the class were watching with their jaws on the ground. "W winner, Naruto," he stammered. Naruto sheathed his sword and walked back to the class. When they were all seated, Iruka announced, "This is the ninjutsu portion of the test," and they all returned inside for the last part of the exam. "You will perform the 3 Academy Jutsu moves at the front of the class." Iruka went through the list of names one by one, and when Naruto's name was finally called, he walked to the front of the class and stood in front of Iruka. "Perform a henge, a kawarimi, and 3 bunshin. This counts for a large portion of your grade, so if you didn't do so well on the other parts, do your best on this one." Iruka grinned. Very impressive. Naruto changed into a flawless replica of the Shodame headmaster, traded places with Iruka, and made 20 clones, all without hand signs. "These aren't your typical bunshin, and although I wasn't sure you could handle the bunshin, it appears you greatly surpassed my expectations." Naruto shook his head. "They are Yami bunshin, the jutsu that served as the model for Kage bunshin. Unfortunately, there's still only a tenth of the strength of the user," he said, demonstrating by punching one of them in the face. "They have the same properties as Kage bunshin, except they can only be dispelled by a killing blow." "Naruto, you're full of surprises," Iruka said, shaking his head. "You succeed," Iruka remarked. "Okay, everybody who passed, be here tomorrow for team announcement." The class started to file out as Naruto picked up his headband and tied it around his right bicep. "Congratulations, you got the highest scores in every part of the exam." After leaving the academy, Naruto sensed a presence approaching from behind and turned to see a friend approaching him. "What do you want, Fire Clan?" "Give me your sword, Dobe," he said. Naruto squinted his eyes and said, "I will never give you anything, Fire Clan. A loser like you doesn't need it. I'll take it out and beat you with it if you don't get that stick out of your ass." My friend grinned and said, "Anyway, Dobe." He turned to see Naruto, seemingly absorbing the light from the surroundings, and from the shadows that were condensing around him, a long black tentacle shot towards Naruto's friend and wrapped around his neck, lifting him into the air and slamming him against a wall. "You listen to me, Fire Clan," he said, starting to leave after feeling extremely cold. "No one will force me to give you shit, and I mean no one. Nor the headmaster, nor the council, not even the Shodame's own ghost. Now leave my sight." The tentacle released him, and Naruto started to move away, melting into smoke as he went. Tsukiyomi and Amaterasu were waiting for him as he returned to his regular training location, and he greeted them both, with Tsukiyomi responding, "Greetings, Naruto." A big scroll appeared in front of him, and it read, "This is a summoning scroll. We have something for you, a sort of congratulations on your graduation. We took a long time to choose the best one for you, but I believe you'll be happy with our choice." With a raised eyebrow, Naruto asked, "What sort of summoning is it?" "Sign it and find out," he said. Tsukiyomi grinned. "What?" Amaterasu clarified. "We found this in the ruins of Yuzushiogakure, where your clan is from." At the sight of the names on the scroll, Naruto was astounded. This was the summoning contract for your family. Your mother's last name appeared on the scroll. Kushina, mother. Naruto memorized the name, bit his thumb, signed the scroll, and added his handprint next to his signature. He slammed his hands on the ground, making the hand signs, and when the smoke cleared, he was standing atop a huge dragon. He smiled broadly, thinking, "Oh yeah, this would work perfectly." In a deep voice, the dragon said, "Who called me? You're where?" Naruto jumped off the dragon's back and landed in front of it. "I summoned you." He introduced himself as Naruto, to which the dragon said, "Oh? I believed Kushina-chan to be the final one. Do you know her?" "She was my mother," Naruto said, nodding. The dragon exhaled smoke from its nostrils and said, "Damn. She died giving birth to me. Kushina-chan has always appealed to me. The best summoner we've ever used. In any case, my name is Aizen. If you wish to summon us, you'll have to call my father the boss. I recommend doing that right away. He will be excited to see you. Naruto nodded, then executed the hand seals, biting his thumb and slamming his palm to the ground. A massive cloud of smoke engulfed the forest, and a massive black dragon, nearly as tall as the Kyuubi, emerged from it. Who calls forth Ragnarok, ruler of the dragons? It asked. It looked down and saw Naruto and Aizen and said, Another, eh? Salutations, young man. My name is Ragnarok. If you need me or my type, don't hesitate to call us. I expect you to take care of the boy, Aizen. Aizen nodded in response to his father's directives. What did he mean by look after him? Naruto said, turning to face Aizen. It means I'm your familiar, Aizen said in response to Naruto's question. Naruto arched an eyebrow and said, I think people might object to me bringing a large dragon into the village. Aizen snorted and said, No worries. He started to shrink until he was only a foot tall, and then he flew up and perched on Naruto's shoulder. Okay, better. Naruto turned to face the two gods, but they weren't there. Every frickin' time, he thought, and started to return to the village through the forest. Finally, he heard Mizuki say, I have the Forbidden Scroll, and I can take it to Orochimaru-sama. He was startled to sense Mizuki in a clearing up ahead, and he approached to hear what was happening. He was able to sense someone up ahead because of his vampire abilities, which allowed him to detect people nearby and identify them by the smell of their blood. Most importantly, I managed to frame the Kyuubi brat. Well, if it isn't the demon brat, Naruto said, his eyes widening. Mizuki turned traitor? I've got to stop him. Mizuki just avoided the thrust to his heart as he leaped to his feet and spotted Naruto standing close by with his sword drawn. Unfortunately for you, we're all alone out here, and I can finally kill you. He was cut off when a heavy weight struck his head from behind, rendering him unconscious. Aizen, in full size, was standing behind Mizuki's lifeless form. Got him, boss. When Naruto had a cunning idea, he decided to read the scroll while he had it, so he sat down, opened it, took out a smaller scroll, performed some hand seals, and put a hand on each scroll before taking Mizuki and the scroll to the headmaster. He discovered a number of intriguing jutsu on it, but the most intriguing of all was a seal at the very bottom, with Naruto's name written above it. He channeled his chakra into it out of curiosity, and a second, smaller scroll emerged from the seal. Naruto opened it and read what was there. Naruto, if you are reading this, you are either a Chunin or 16. You may already be aware of this, but you are the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. I sincerely apologize for the immense burden I have placed upon you. I hope the village will see you as the hero you truly are, but I have a part of me that worries that won't happen. You will find the keys to the clan compound inside this scroll. All of my life's work is there. I leave it to you. I have to go now. The beast draws near. Please know, if there were any other way, I would gladly take it. Goodbye, my son. Your dad. Headmaster Namikaze Minato of Yondaime. The headmaster, the only person Naruto trusted in the village, had lied to him all his life, and he grasped what this meant after reading the scroll so many times that he felt his eyes would begin to bleed. Sarutobi, with a roar, he seized the prohibited scroll and Mizuki, then shot into the air with Aizen in tow. Office of the Headmaster. While working on paperwork at his desk, Sarutobi's window was smashed by someone being thrown through it. When the person landed on his desk, he saw that it was Mizuki, who was wearing the Forbidden Scroll. He looked out the window and saw a figure he hardly recognized. Naruto, he questioned incredulously. What the devil is happening? What became of you, and Mizuki as well? I saw the letter, Sarutobi, Naruto said, glaring at him with silver-lit eyes. Sarutobi groaned. I knew this whole thing would come back to bite me. He turned to Mizuki and glared at the unconscious man, saying, Now to deal with you. There will be consequences for lying to me. The blonde simply flew higher into the air and disappeared in a burst of speed. It's your fortunate day, Ibiki. Sarutobi laughed slyly to himself. Compound of the Namikaze clan. As Naruto flew over his clan compound, he was amazed by its size. It was even bigger than the Fire Clan district. Aizen, who was flying behind him, gave a strange whistle of gratitude, considering that he was a dragon. Damn, boss! All of this is yours? Naruto nodded. You're right. There's a part of me that wants to burn this home down because I'm so mad with my father. To be honest, though, I can't be angry with him. If I had been him, I would have taken the same course of action. I know it isn't true, but I tried to convince myself that I would have found another way. Oh well. Naruto closed his eyes and started to dive straight down, falling hundreds of feet before he flipped over and flared his wings to break his fall, landing in a crouch on the ground. He looked up and saw that he was in front of the clan head's house, and he grinned to himself. So this is my house. Nice. It was a big, 3-story house in the middle of the compound, and when he went inside, he saw that it was well furnished. He sent out 10 Yami Bunshin to explore the house, and he liked what he found: a master bedroom, a master bathroom, storage rooms, spare rooms, an attic, a room that would have been Naruto's room, and the basement, which extended far beyond the house. It was the clan library and Minato's private workshop. All of the Namikaze techniques were down there, as well as the jutsu that was created by the Yondaime. Since Naruto didn't need to sleep, a side effect of his vampirism, he had little to do at night, so he sent out clones to explore the rest of the compound, and he found nothing interesting to watch. The compound had more than 50 houses, 10 dojos, a grocery store, 2 clothing stores, a ninja supply store, and a large warehouse full of weapons. Behind the compound was a large training area, a huge clearing in the forest that was ideal for its intended use. Naruto was relieved that the training ground was isolated, so he got up from his couch and left the house, deciding to just train for the rest of the night. Aizen was pleased to return to his full size when they left the house. He was roughly 30 feet tall and twice as long at his full length. Oh! What a restrictive form! You know what, I think it would be best from now on if you only took that form when you needed to come inside or sneak up on an enemy. He yelled, flexing his muscles. Naruto laughed. In addition, some of the locals might actually throw up themselves if we're lucky. They both chuckled at that and started out for the training site. The following day. After spending the majority of the night training together, sparring and doing a variety of other creative exercises, Naruto tested his superhuman strength by bench pressing Aizen, who was complaining the entire time. After a while, they became bored and began playing checkers, which Naruto won 5 games to 3. After deciding to take the scenic route, as he called it, Naruto rode on Aizen's back and headed straight down the main roads of Hyde Village, smirking at the terrified expressions on the faces of the villagers. When they finally arrived at the academy, Aizen shrank down and landed on Naruto's shoulder. People turned to stare at him as he walked into the classroom and sat in the back. Irika gave him a glance before clearing his throat and declaring, "Naruto, no pets in class." Naruto rolled his eyes and asked, "So why is Akamaru permitted to bring Kiba?" Kiba merely scowled as the class burst out laughing at his joke. Naruto went on, "And what about Naruto's friend?" Both Kiba and Naruto's friend were glaring at Naruto as the class started to laugh even more, and even Irika started to giggle a little. Everyone can clearly see the duck sitting on his head. Irika raised an eyebrow when Naruto stated, "Anyway, Aizen isn't a pet, he's one of my summons," after everyone had calmed down. "All right. Shall we begin our team assignments now?" As Irika called out the names of the squads and their senseis, Naruto tuned out. "Let's see, Team 1. He perked up at the mention of his name. Team 7 Naruto. Haruno Sakura, and Fire Clan Naruto friend. Sakura was about to complain when a loud crack sounded, and everyone turned to see that Naruto had put his head through his desk, causing them to all perspire. Irika went on. Hatake Kakashi is your sensei. Iruka gave him a strange look and said, Sorry I'm late. Kakashi, you're actually early. Kakashi looked perplexed. Wasn't team assignments supposed to be at 5 in the morning? A man with spiky silver hair, a face mask, and his hataite covering his left eye interrupted him as the door opened. No, it was at 8 in the morning right now, Iruka said, rolling his eyes. Gosh darn that old man! He misled me! Oh well, Kakashi yelled. Team 7, meet me on the rooftop. Sakura and her companion Naruto began to go, but Naruto simply vanished into the smoke. Sakura and Naruto's friend showed up a bit later, looking exhausted, and Kakashi stated, Now that everyone is here, we can begin. Naruto returned to find Kakashi waiting. Let's introduce yourself, everyone. Sakura said, Sensei, why don't you go first and demonstrate the process for us? Very well, said Kakashi, rolling his eye. Hatake Kakashi is my name. A few things appeal to me. I don't like some things. I have a few pastimes. I never gave future dreams any thought. You see? Simple. You now, Pinky. Sakura scowled at the moniker. Haruno Sakura is my name. Reading, brushing my hair, and to Friendkuin are things I enjoy. I don't like Inopig, Nutabaka, or anyone who attempts to take into Friendkuin. My likes and hobbies are the same. My future dream, she said, blushing and giggling as she glanced at her pal. Glancing at his companion Naruto, Kakashi said, Your turn, Sunshine. My name is Fire Clan to Friend, said Naruto Friend. Nothing truly appeals to me. A lot of stuff I don't like. Other than exercising, I have no interests. I have aspiration rather than a dream. Sakura fell in love with Naruto's companion, but Kakashi and Naruto merely rolled their eyes. To kill a certain man, and rebuild my clan. Turning to Naruto, Kakashi said, You're next. In response, Naruto said, My name is Naruto. Angels, vampires, dragons, training, weaponry, combat, everything involving my family, and the Fire Clan Itachi are all things that I enjoy. From my perspective, he did the world a favor. The majority of the village's residents, some of the shinobi, rapists, and bad people in general are all individuals I detest. Reading, training, and pulling practical jokes are some of my interests. It is none of your business what I envision for the future. Well then, I want all of you to come to Training Ground 7 tomorrow morning at 7 for our test, said Kakashi, raising an eyebrow at Naruto's introduction as his companion erupted in rage. Sakura was unsure of Itachi's identity. Sakura gave him a perplexed expression. Kakashi's visible eye twisted into an upside-down U, asking, What test, sensei? He responded with a smile. Why, the test to see which of you will become genin, of course. Sakura simply appeared even more perplexed. Kakashi shook his head, saying, But sensei, we already took the genin exam. He gave them all another eye smile before disappearing. That was just to see who had the potential to become a genin. Well, anyway, be at the training ground at 7. Oh, and don't eat breakfast, or you'll vomit. The following day, Naruto had gone home after the rooftop meeting and was looking for other methods to keep himself entertained until daybreak. He had deliberately eaten a hearty breakfast. Around 10, he made his way to Training Ground 7, with Aizen trailing behind him in full form. Up ahead, he saw his two teammates leaning behind a tree. As he got closer, Sakura gave him a scowl. Sensei is going to be upset with you because you're late, Baka. Naruto rolled his eyes. Sakura started to scream at him, but she stopped when she noticed Kakashi approaching them. Sakura, if he were already here, then I'd be late. But he's not, so shut it, she exclaimed. You're late. Sakura only looked perplexed as Kakashi added, Sorry, I was helping an old lady out of a tree. And then I had to help a cat across the street. He pulled 2 bells from his pocket and fastened them to his waist, saying, Anyway, let's get on with the test. You have to get these bells from me. Anyone who doesn't get a bell gets sent back to the academy. But let me warn you, you won't get a bell unless you come at me with the intent to kill. Begin. Sakura and her companion Naruto leaped into the forest as soon as he ordered. Begin. However, Naruto remained still. Intent to kill, eh? This is gonna be fun, he exclaimed as he pulled out his sword and hurried over to Kakashi, slashing at his skull. Kakashi had to escape a torrent of fire from Aizen before he could stop the hit. He attempted to pull away from Naruto, but the blonde refused to let him. Kakashi had to keep blocking since his swings were so quick. Furthermore, Naruto was swinging so hard that Kakashi thought his arms were going to melt. The fact that he had to constantly avoid Aizen's assaults didn't help either. He finally managed to jump back from Naruto a few feet and gather his breath. He was perplexed since he had no idea what the bizarre item Naruto was pointing at him was. He began to feel sick to his stomach when he noticed a bright light building in front of it. Dirt flew everywhere as the light finally flew at him faster than he could blink and struck the earth in front of him. He was startled to see the 3-foot-wide, 1-foot-deep hole where the blow had struck. This child is genuinely attempting to murder me, he reflected to himself. As Naruto blasted at breakneck speed, he rushed around the training area, literally running for his life. He was ultimately snagged at the edge of one of the explosions and launched into the air. Panting for air, he landed in a weary heap. Aizen placed one of his enormous legs on Kakashi's back and held him there before he could stand up. When he heard the timer go off, he grinned with delight. Kakashi stood up and brushed himself off once Aizen lifted his leg off of him. Both Sakura and her buddy Naruto emerged from the forest. Kakashi grinned. Naruto cleared his throat, interrupting him. Well, that was fun. However, since none of you got a bell, I'm afraid you dash. When Kakashi looked at him, he had both bells in his hands. His gaze expanded. When did you dash? Naruto interrupted him once more. He then gave a bell to Sakura and another to his friend Naruto, saying, Right after you tied them to your belt. I also knew the true purpose of this test. Teamwork. Isn't that right, sensei? Kakashi simply stared at him. If you had the bells from the start, then why did you spend an hour kicking my ass? Naruto laughed. Kakashi scowled at him and said, It was more fun that way. While Naruto continued to smile, Sakura cheered. Grr. You all pass. Damn it. Meet back here tomorrow morning, same time for our first mission. He disappeared in a puff of smoke. Office of the Headmaster. The two jounin in front of Sarutobi were his focus. Only these two teams had apparently made it through this year. So this is it? I must admit, I'm a little surprised. Kakashi suddenly materialized in the center of the room, looking like hell and covered in filth and blood. His arm was bleeding, his clothing were torn, and even his hair was falling. Before he passed out in a chair, he said, Team 7 passes. Asuma and Kurenai, the other two jounin, gave him a wide-eyed stare. Kurenai cried out, What the hell happened to you? Kakashi moaned. Naruto. The eyes of everybody grew wide. With incredulity, Asuma questioned, One kid did this to you? With a nod, Kakashi started to tell them about his altercation with Naruto. When Kakashi explained that he didn't use his Sharingan only because he was too busy racing for his life to find it, they chuckled. The jounin eventually dispersed, and Sarutobi wrote down the names of the deceased genin. The Namikaze compound. Naruto tried to meditate while seated on the couch in his living room. He had made up his mind to visit the Kyuubi. Keeping his eyes closed, he concentrated solely on his breathing. He eventually felt the world simply disappear. He was in a huge hedge maze with walls that rose as far as he could see when he opened his eyes. He looked up and saw the stars and moon gleaming brightly. He followed the pull in his mind as it led him into the labyrinth. He eventually discovered a sizable cage in the middle of the labyrinth. It was dark inside and perhaps 1,000 feet tall. There was nothing within that he could see. Inside the cage, a massive set of red eyes suddenly opened. When Naruto approached the cage, the QB swung its enormous claws at him. So, my jailer finally decided to pay me a visit, eh? Come closer, boy. But with a single finger, Naruto stopped the claws, shocking the QB. He hurled the beast back, and it banged against the rear of the cage. So, you're the QB? I'm not impressed. The beast let out a furious growl. Naruto chuckled ominously. What? How is this possible? He strode right through the cage's bars and past the seal's protection to demonstrate his point. In here, I am God. Your power is nothing as long as you are in my mind. Foolish child. Now you die! The QB pounced at Naruto, attempting to bite him in two, but an invisible force flung it backwards before it could reach him. What? That's impossible! Naruto clenched his fist and laughed as he came out of the cage. QB was almost crushed by the cage as it grew smaller and smaller. How are you causing me pain? I can't feel anything in here, it cried, grinning at Naruto. QB moaned in agony, but then laughed and started to shrink and alter until a stunning woman with long red hair and enormous assets replaced it. I already told you. I am God in here. If I want you to feel pain, you feel pain. The fact that she was hardly dressed didn't help either. Naruto gave her a disbelieving glance. QB laughed at him and said, QB, you're a chick. She answered in a much more feminine voice. Of course I am, boy. Couldn't you tell? And Naruto started to perspire. QB gave him a fierce look and said, No. Not at all, really. Humph, men. Anyway, what did you come here for anyway? Or was it just to humiliate me? Naruto grinned. He turned to leave, saying, Well then, I guess you're not interested in getting out of here. QB's gaze expanded. Naruto chuckled. Wait. Please. Don't go. I knew that would get your attention. So I take it you're interested? QB gave a forceful nod. Hell yeah. The only thing I've felt in 14 years was that pain you caused me earlier. I would give anything to be free of this damned seal. Naruto laughed. Well then. Lucky for you, I know a way to get you out. It involves using a large amount of your Yuki to create a flesh and blood body for you, and transfer your consciousness into that body. However, 4 taels of your power will be permanently lost in the transfer. Are you willing to do this? QB made a snap decision. I'll do it. When can we get started? Replied Naruto. Well, the power output of the transfer would undoubtedly be noticed immediately, so I want to wait until we can leave the village. I'll wait for a C rank. It'll probably be about a month. QB's eyes narrowed. How do you know I won't attack you when I get out? Answered Naruto. During the transfer procedure, I'm going to place a seal on your body that prevents you from attacking me or anybody I order you not to. If you do, the seal will activate and kill you. QB gave a sympathetic nod. Turning to go, Naruto said, Well, I'll be going now. It's almost morning. I'll talk to you in a month. Wait. Naruto glanced around again and saw QB covering her face with her blush. Before you go, do you think you could establish a sort of mental connection or something? It gets boring in here, and I'd like to at least have someone to talk to. Naruto nodded and led you to the cage. Reaching up, he tore off a small bit of the sheet of paper that was the seal. It went from his consciousness after giving him a slight sensation in the back of his brain. When he opened his eyes, he was at home, leaning back on his couch. After searching his mind, he discovered that he could vaguely sense QB's presence. Can you hear me? He inquired. Yeah, QB said. I hear you. Naruto gathered his belongings, left the house, and took off. Enjoying the warm sun on his face, he started to make his way to the training ground. And that's my new masterpiece's first chapter. First, to respond to any queries you might have. Iruka stopped them with a raised hand. He handed them a scroll and said, All right. Geez, are you guys trying to get a C rank or an S rank? Here. Your mission is to escort a bridge builder to Nami no Kuni and protect him while he finishes building his bridge. Tazuna-san, you may enter. Are these the people guarding me? Why does that one have a duck on his head? Is that pink thing coming too? He muttered in a drunken slur as the door opened and an elderly man carrying a bottle of sake, surprise, surprise, entered the room. Aizen and Naruto started giggling uncontrollably. I swear to God, if one more person says that, stated a buddy of mine. Tazuna went to fetch his belongings, and the genin were told to meet back at the gate in an hour. Naruto smiled and remarked, I like this old geezer. After an hour and a half, Kakashi was still nowhere to be found. Sakura had continued to complain, of course. In an attempt to drown out Sakura's voice, Naruto had begun conversing with Kyubi. Kyubi and Naruto had gotten to know one another over the past month. On most nights, Naruto would spend time with Kyubi in his mindscape. They did all kinds of things in his thoughts. Hockey, soccer, basketball, you name it. They would participate if it was competitive. Naruto had discovered one thing about Kyubi: she was a brazen flirt. She had proposed that they play strip poker one evening. She simply winked when Naruto pointed out that she was hardly wearing anything at all. It took an hour for Naruto's flush to go away. But sometimes, out of the corner of Naruto's eye, he saw her flushing and glancing at him. Why, he wondered. Hi, Q. At last, we received a C rank, he told her. You're almost out of there. Kick ass! I am eager to leave this area, she answered. So, have you considered your plans for after you leave? Naruto inquired. Well, not precisely, no, but I'll come up with something. Back outside his head, Naruto saw Kakashi walking up with his nose in his book. Yo, he said nonchalantly, and Sakura gave him her typical scream before they left the hiding village by walking down the road. Sakura said to Tazuna. So, Tazuna-san, as they were strolling, does your nation have ninjas? No, Sakura, said Naruto on his behalf. He would have hired them if they had. Now stop talking and refrain from making pointless inquiries. After a while, they kept walking down the road until Naruto spotted a puddle by the side of the road. He glanced at Kakashi and saw that he had also noticed it. As they got closer to the puddle, Naruto swiftly pulled out his sword and stabbed it, and two men wearing gauntlets with shuriken chains attached emerged, one of them bleeding from a shoulder stab wound. In an attempt to intimidate him, they snarled at Naruto, who slashed at them with his katana, and Naruto simply pulled out his gun, killing the wounded man by shooting him in the heart. The other one, releasing the chain from his gauntlet, rushed at Naruto and yelled, I'll kill you for that! The man leaped into the air, attempting to slash at Naruto from above, but this was what Naruto was waiting for. When the man descended, Naruto's sword impaled him in the gut, and Naruto leaned in to whisper in the man's ear. Now you die! Naruto swiftly sank his fangs into the screaming man's neck, drinking his blood until none remained. By the time he was done, the man was nothing more than a parched husk. When he was done, the blood that had been on his face and trickled down his chin appeared to have been absorbed into his skin. Ah, that was refreshing. Naruto licked the blood from his sword before turning back to face his team, who were staring at him in horror. What? He put his weapon away and returned to his group, saying, I told you I was half vampire. Sakura gave him a terrified look and said, Why, you were serious? Naruto rolled his eyes. Duh. Ironically, don't you think that the truth is frequently more implausible than lies? Sakura kept looking at him, saying, We all assumed you were kidding. Are those wings real? Are you truly not a human? That's correct. Naruto nodded. Isn't that fantastic? That's what ninja do, Sakura, said Naruto sharply as she turned to face the two dry corpses sitting by the side of the road. You killed them. We murder people. They will definitely kill you if you don't kill your enemy, she said, nodding as she took one final glance at the two dead. Kakashi cleared his throat and said, "Would you kindly return to the urgent issue?" Even though they were easily dispatched, those were Kiri's Chunin level nuke Nin. This mission is now at least a B rank as a result. Tazuna, could you explain why ninja are after you? Well, you see, about a year ago, a man named Gato came to my country and started taking control of all trade in and out of the country. Tazuna explained, letting out a sigh. He now has complete authority, and the populace is suffering. Not even the daimyo can help. However, the bridge I'm building would save our nation by connecting us to the mainland. Gato, however, is against that. He enjoys having authority. You see, although he may appear to be a respectable businessman, his company is actually a cover for a variety of illicit activities. You name it: drugs, smuggling, human trafficking. People fear for their lives because he sets an example for everyone who dares to speak out against him. I had to hire ninjas to combat the ones he sent after me because he had attempted to sabotage my bridge multiple times. Will you please assist my nation and me? Yes, I did utilize the same justification from my previous story. Whoop, want to argue about it? It's up to you, Kakashi said, turning to his team. Would you like to go back or continue? Naruto and Aizen moved to stand with Tazuna, who grinned and stated, I have the vampire and the dragon on my side, you guys could probably head back. I'm going, regardless of your decisions. Additionally, Naruto's friend approached Tazuna and declared, I'm going. Sakura naturally followed him without hesitation, and Kakashi's eye grinned. All right, Tazuna. They were about to continue when to return to the two corpses, cut off their heads, burned their bodies, sealed their heads in a scroll he had apparently found out of thin air, and then walked back to his team. It looks like the mission proceeds, Tazuna said with a sigh of relief. Thank you all very much. Kakashi gave him a wry look and asked, Where did you obtain that scroll? I am aware that you did not bring it with you. Shadow storage. Naruto shrugged. What is meant by that? Everyone's eyes widened as Naruto held up the scroll and dropped it into a tree's shadow, disappearing rather than hitting the ground. Now that's cool, Tazuna said, and Naruto smiled. I can store anything I want, and I can recall it from any shadow. Nothing noteworthy happened until they reached the sea, where a man with a boat was waiting for them, and they all climbed into it. They started to move quickly away from the shore, but as they approached the island, they had to turn off the engines to avoid being noticed. Eventually, they were able to see a huge bridge to their side, and they were all in awe of its size, with Tazuna gazing proudly at it. When they finally reached the shore and got off the boat, Tazuna thanked the man and he quickly rowed away. They went on down the road for a while until Naruto's friend threw a kunai into the bushes. When Naruto turned to see what his friend had hit, he saw a small rabbit lying dead with a kunai in its head. A white rabbit in summer? He said narrowly. He walked back to his team, when suddenly, Kakashi yelled, Get down! When Naruto turned, he saw a giant Zanbatsu spinning through the air toward him. He quickly drew his sword, which was glowing brightly as he did so. The blade transformed into a giant Zanbatsu, 7 feet long, pure black, with a single glowing red vein running the length of it. It was straight and double-edged, with red spikes on one side at the tip that ran down for about a foot and angled back towards his wrist. Naruto threw the sword in the air, catching it as if it weighed nothing, and he smiled evilly to himself. The other Zanbatsu had been knocked into a tree, and a strange-looking man suddenly appeared standing on it. When he finished his swing, the sword had changed into that Zanbatsu, knocking the other one away from him. Naruto whistled gratefully, running his fingers along the razor-sharp blade. Momochi Zabuza, demon of the bloody mist, Kakashi said, squinting at the man. Zabuza chuckled menacingly. So, the great Sharingan Kakashi has heard of me, eh? A-rank Jounin level nuke Nin of Kiri. I feel flattered. Turn the elderly guy over. You can also go. Naruto stood in front of Kakashi as he was ready to battle him, saying grimly, This one's mine, Kakashi. Kakashi knew better than to argue with him when he became like this, so he simply moved back while Naruto faced Zabuza. They were standing apart when Naruto suddenly swung his sword horizontally, sending a black wave of destructive energy at Zabuza. Zabuza's eyes widened as he leaped over the wave, seeing 3 more approaching quickly, followed by Naruto. After avoiding the waves, he had to deal with Naruto, who was swinging his Zanbatsu so forcefully that it hurt to block. He was about to dodge a slash that would have taken his head off when he was suddenly covered by a large shadow, and when he looked up, he saw Aizen swooping down on him from above. Zabuza retreated to the lake's surface, hoping to gain an advantage, but Naruto continued to barrage him with long-range attacks, and he was shocked to see him flex his wings and leap into the air. His blood ran cold when he saw Naruto swooping down on him, eyes like fire, with his large Zanbatsu poised to strike. Naruto fell from above, crashing into Zabuza and creating a huge splash of water. Zabuza stared at Naruto in terror as the slash nearly severed his right arm, broke his left arm completely, and sent him back against a tree. Who are you? I am the one who walks between the light and the shadow, he said in a shaky voice, and Naruto gazed at him with his eyes still flaming. I am the Lord of Day and Night. The Half-Night King is me. With a demonic yell, he swung his Zanbatsu, meaning to finish Zabuza, but was taken aback as multiple Samban appeared to kill him in the neck. Suddenly, a young lad wearing a Hunterine mask crouched beside Zabuza's body and muttered, I appreciate you making him weaker. The boy took Zabuza and disappeared, leaving Naruto to just sheath his blade, which had transformed back into a katana, and walked back to his crew, who were once again in full disbelief. I have been looking for an opportunity to take him out for a while now. Zabuza is still alive, Naruto replied, turning to face Kakashi. On the spot, a Hunterine is expected to chop off the head and destroy the body. He couldn't have been slain by the location of the Samban, either. I don't think he'll be bothering us anymore, though, given the condition in which I left him. It is likely that his arm will need to be amputated. Kakashi gave him a weird look and asked, How do you know all that? In response, Naruto rolled his eyes. I read a lot. Information gathering is greatly aided by Yami Bunshin. Kakashi only nodded, unsure of the exact meaning. After glancing at Tazuna, Kakashi inquired, Is your house close by? They all followed Tazuna as he led the way, and he nodded. Yeah, just down the road. They soon arrived at a modest 2-story house by the sea, and Tazuna led the way inside, shouting, I'm home! Thank you for bringing my father home, exclaimed a young woman with long black hair as she bowed to the ninja and gave Tazuna a hug. I'm Tazuna's daughter, and my name is Tsunami. With a smile, Kakashi remarked, No problem. The ninja all got ready for bed after supper with Tazuna and his family, with the exception of Naruto, who jumped out the window, spread his wings, and flew into the night as his bunking partner, his pal, crawled into his bed and started snoring loudly. In order to start establishing the intricate seal he had been studying, Naruto flew several miles away from the house, to a location where he was certain the chakra output would not be felt. Are you ready for this, Q? He asked. Yeah, I'm ready. I just have one question. Will my new body be demon or human? Demon. It is going to be created out of Yuki, after all. Okay, it's time to get started, Naruto replied, forming a strange seal with his hands and reaching inside himself to pull out Kyuubi's Yuki. The complex seal he was standing in began to glow brightly, and as he grunted with the exertion of pulling out more and more Yuki, it started to take shape in the middle of the seal. The large ball of Yuki was clearly female and clearly human-shaped. As Naruto felt the seal take effect, the mass of Yuki started to glow brightly. He let go of the Yuki and watched it swirl around the form before condensing on the glowing shape and finally stopping. Kyuubi, in her human form and fully nude, stood in the center of the seal, and to seal, a complex pattern around her neck prevented her from hurting him. When she finally opened her eyes, Kyuubi, who was crying into his chest and repeatedly thanking him, suddenly tackled Naruto. He took him by the head and kissed him on the lips, her tongue diving eagerly into his mouth as they lay on the grass, making out for a while before Kyubi let him go. She stood up and dressed out of her yuki, wearing a black t-shirt with a red flame on the front that was pulled tight against her chest and black slacks that were loose and similar to Naruto's, but with bare feet. With the blood on his face being reabsorbed into his skin, Naruto, who was bleeding after having a very attractive, nude woman make love with him, gently stood up. Kyubi grinned at him and remarked, "Hot damn, it feels nice to be free." Naruto laughed and said, "I'll say." He took Kyubi in his arms and leaped back towards the house, where they lay down and gazed at the stars since they had nothing else to do. "So, what are you going to do now?" Naruto asked Kyubi. "Just stay with you, I suppose," he said. Kyubi shrugged. "Even so, I doubt the headmaster will let me return to the community." "You have a point," Naruto said, nodding. "But if I take you into my clan, then they can't harm you at all." Kyubi turned to face him. "What do you mean?" Naruto laughed and said, "Let me explain." Rewind. About a week after graduating from the academy, Naruto was called to the headmaster's office and stood in front of Sarutobi's desk, his arms crossed and his face blazing at him. "You wanted something?" he inquired. Sarutobi smiled at Naruto and said, "I see now that what I did was wrong. I ought to have shared your family with you. I simply had too much paranoia that the secret would be revealed. I only wounded you, even though I thought I was protecting you. I really apologize for this. I want to make a kind of peace offering to you in order to restore the shattered trust." Naruto arched his eyebrow, asking, "What sort of peace sacrifice? When I make Chunin, will I get all the benefits of a clan head, including a seat on the council?" Sarutobi handed him a scroll, which Naruto examined and read. His eyes widened. "Anyone you adopt into your clan will be safe from the council's reach," Sarutobi said with a smile. Naruto stared at him and said, "All I ask is that you hold off on disclosing your ancestry until you make Chunin." After saying, "I'll accept your apology," they shook hands. End of flashback. Kyubi appeared content. "So I'll be protected when we get back to the village?" Naruto nodded. Kyubi squealed and hugged him. "Bitchin'!" A light seemed to go off above her head. "Shit! I nearly forgot!" She leapt down to the ground, and with a wave of her hand, opened a glowing portal of red swirling energy. She reached inside, pulling out a strange-looking sword. She considered it for a moment, before tossing it away. She pulled out dozens more weapons, looking at each before rejecting it and tossing it away. Finally she exclaimed, "Aha!" and produced the last weapon. Kyubi channeled some of her yuki into the long whip, which was made of red leather with spikes running the length of it. The whip exploded into flames, and she twirled it above her head before yanking it around a tree trunk and toppling it. The whip easily cut through the tree, putting out the flames, and Kyubi cut the stream of yuki to it before wrapping the whip up and hanging it at her waist. She turned to Naruto and smiled savagely, saying, "Come on. Damn, it feels good to have my old weapon back." She snapped her fingers, sending all the other weapons flying back into the portal and closing it. Naruto smiled back at her, saying, "Okay, but I won't be holding back. Bring it. We're going to spar," Kyubi shouted. The two of them charged at each other, creating a path of destruction through the forest the entire night. The following day, they were forced to call it a draw after 7 hours of non-stop fighting, and now they were walking through the demolished forest when they came across a building hidden in the woods. "I had planned on finding them later, but now is as good a time as ever," Naruto told them, smiling. He crept up to the building and told Kyubi to wait outside. Within the structure, Haku, who had been sleeping for hours due to an infection in his wounds, sat in a chair and watched Zabuza move while he slept. Haku was afraid of his teacher and father figure dying, of being abandoned and being hunted by Hunter Nien all his life, and he had no idea how to treat him. He was about to wipe the perspiration from Zabuza's forehead when he heard someone behind him say, "Zabuza's not looking very good." He turned swiftly, holding a saban, and saw the silver-haired boy who had caused Zabuza to become this way. He growled angrily, asking, "What do you want? Come to finish us off?" To reassure him, Naruto held up a hand and said, "No, nothing like that." The two of them heard someone say, "I came to give you a deal." "What type of deal?" Haku turned to Zabuza with his eyes open, sitting up partway in his bed. "Zabuza-sama," Zabuza waved him away, concentrating on Naruto, who retorted, "I will heal your wounds under the condition that you agree to join me and return to Hyde Village with me." Haku shouted, hurrying to his side. "You can really heal my wounds?" Zabuza asked, examining him as he considered the proposition. "How about my arm?" After giving it some more thinking, Zabuza said, "I tell you, the arm will be no issue to fix." "What about Haku? What role does he play in this?" "He'll accompany us and get the same gift I'm giving you," replied Naruto. Zabuza arched his brows. "Gift?" Naruto grinned and said, "You'll see." Zabuza sighed and nodded. "All right." Haku also nodded in agreement with the plan, saying, "Heal my wounds, give us your gift, or whatever, and we'll join you." Naruto smiled. "Very good." The interesting thing about vampire venom was that it took a certain amount to turn someone into a vampire. Too much and the person would die from cardiac arrest. Too little and the person would only be left with a superior regeneration ability and a tendency to get sunburns. Zabuza nodded and closed his eyes, and soon he was asleep. Naruto leaned down and peeled the bandages off of Zabuza's neck before sinking his fangs into the soft flesh because his canines were hollow. Haku also saw the steam emerging from Zabuza's body as Naruto moved away from him, asking, "What's that steam?" he inquired, to which Naruto replied, "That is his body battling the virus and healing his wounds. You see?" Haku examined Zabuza's wounds closely and realized that Naruto was correct. He could already see many of the tiny wounds closing before his eyes. "You can already see it taking effect." "Whoa," Haku said. "That's amazing." Naruto nodded, agreeing. Vampiric regeneration is truly amazing. Alucard was a vampire who previously had the ability to regenerate his complete body from a pool of blood. Haku turned to face him in panic and said, "Wait, vampire?" "Yes," Naruto said, nodding. "In reality, I am half vampire and half angel. The wings originate from there." Haku nodded. "Oh, I was curious about that. You made Zabuza-sama a vampire, then?" "Yes. It is now your turn. Would you like to go to sleep? You won't experience any pain, but it will take longer." Haku shook his head. "No. I'll remain up. Would you be able to briefly explain vampires to me? Like skills and everything, that is." "Let's see," Naruto said, rubbing his chin briefly. "More mental capacity, senses, strength, speed, agility, and reflexes, control over shadows and, to some extent, wind, rapid regeneration, a very high pain threshold, and the capacity to absorb the memories and souls of the people whose blood you drink. Even so, in order to take their souls, you must kill them. The souls can also be called forth to engage in combat with you. Moreover, a very long life while maintaining youth and energy. Really, no one knows how long a vampire can survive. Although it takes years and thousands of souls to grow, vampires can also possess a number of additional powers." Haku appeared impressed. "How about flaws?" "Well, I'm not really sure. The entire aversion to sunlight concept is untrue. Simply said, vampires typically have antisocial dispositions toward people. However, extended exposure to sunshine might occasionally result in nausea and headaches. However, they don't catch fire or anything. The same is true of holy water, silver, and garlic. It's all nonsense. But there's one thing you should know. After being killed, as it were, a vampire may eat one of the souls inside their body in order to recuperate completely. They can still die if they are slain enough times, therefore this isn't actual immortality. Although there is some disagreement over this, Alucard, the vampire I mentioned previously, had the ability to heal himself once all of the souls in his body had been expended. What happened to this Alucard person? Haku said, glancing at him. He inquired, and Naruto answered. He and Abaddon, the angel's leader, murdered each other in combat. You see, there had been a centuries-long conflict between the vampires and the angels until 4 years ago. Because I was a combination of the two species, the conflict came to a stop and a truce was established. I have not yet fully awakened the power that Abaddon and Alucard gave me when their souls were incorporated into mine. It seems strangely poetic that the greatest vampire and angel in history would kill each other in combat before uniting to form me and bringing about peace. So, what kind of angelic abilities do you have? Haku asked, nodding in accord. Well, flight, of course, he asked. The power to heal others, the ability to judge a person's soul at death and either absolve or condemn them of their misdeeds, and the ability to control light and fire to a lesser degree. We can also determine how long a person has left to live. Additionally, I've heard that Abaddon worked numerous amazing miracles throughout his lifetime. They have the same enhanced senses, strength, speed, agility, reflexes, pain threshold, regeneration, and longevity as vampires. Aside from that, do you have any additional queries? Haku gave a nod. Well, 1. Have any vampires ever been able to acquire the other vampire skills you mentioned? Naruto nodded. Yes, those are skills that many of the elder vampires possess. But none are as powerful as Alucard, and I shall eventually inherit his strength because his soul is a part of me. However, I'm not sure how to go about achieving that. Haku got to his feet. All right. I'm ready to start the transformation. Naruto nodded and leaned toward Haku, leaning into his neck. He sank his fangs in and pumped the right amount of venom into the bloodstream, causing Haku to clench his fists in concentration. When the venom reached his heart, he gasped and fell to his knees as he felt the change taking hold. His eyes turned a deep red, his teeth turned into fangs, his nails turned into claws, his hair turned several shades lighter, turning gray, his skin turned pale, and his muscles became more compacted and dense. As the transformation was finished, Haku felt his heart beat once more before it stopped forever. He slowly got to his feet, taking in his surroundings with his new senses. He could see every detail on every surface, his eyes following movement with ease, and illuminating the darkness. He could hear the entire forest, every creature, and he could smell their blood, knowing exactly where to find them. He could even feel the subtle changes in air currents around him. You didn't mention everything would be this vivid, he said. He noticed that his voice sounded deeper than before. He looked in a nearby mirror and saw that his features looked much more masculine. He let his hair down, letting it fall about his head and face, and found that he liked the way it looked. It was a little longer than shoulder length, and was a few shades lighter than black. He removed his feminine-looking clothing, creating new clothing from the shadows. He now wore pants and boots like Naruto, but with a deep red vest, left open to show his muscles. He created a pair of gauntlets that protected his forearms and hands, but left his fingers and palms uncovered. They also had slots for Samban on them. All in all, he looked completely different. He smirked and turned to Naruto, saying, Much better. How do I look? He inquired. Naruto smiled. Vampiric. Also, less like a chick. They turned to see Zabuza sitting up after hearing a moaning noise next to them. Like Haku, he had experienced physical changes. His hair had remained black, but his eyes were the same hue as Haku's. But it had gotten a bit longer. He got to his feet and used his new senses to survey his surroundings. His eyes widened as he turned to see Haku. He glanced in the mirror and asked, Haku? What the hell happened to you? And to me, for that matter? When Haku had finished explaining all Naruto had informed him, Zabuza was amazed. He addressed Naruto, saying, "Damn kid!" Zabuza grabbed up his Zanbatsu and spun it about, amazed at how light it seemed to him now. "You weren't kidding when you said it wouldn't be a problem, were you? Judging by the light, it's been like, 40 minutes? He asked. Naruto felt a sinking sensation in his stomach. Kyubi was no longer on his mind. He motioned Kyubi to come inside by leaning his head out the window. Glaring at Naruto, she walked into the home. "What the hell were you thinking, leaving me out there for so long?" she asked. Kyubi simply nodded in comprehension as Naruto cheered inside as he pointed to the two new vampires and added, "These two will be joining us." "I'm amazed that worked," he pondered. Naruto extracted multiple packs of blood from a shadow. The moon on the back of his right hand started to glow purple as he focused some energy and handed them to Haku and Zabuza. "Here. These will hold you over for now. Fresh blood is better, however. I would recommend going into the forest to hunt some animals. Don't bother with the meat, you can't eat regular food anymore." A tall woman arrived in front of Naruto. She had a long red duster over her Victorian-style clothes. She wore round, yellow-tinted sunglasses over her red eyes, and a red fedora with a broad, floppy brim hid her blonde hair. There was a big gun by her side. She said, "My lord, how may I serve you?" as she bowed to Naruto. Ceres said, "Of course, my lord." Naruto said, "Hello, Ceres. I need you to watch over these two newborns for the next week and help them get used to their new abilities. I trust you are up to the task?" Naruto said goodbye to everyone and dissolved away into smoke with Kyubi. When he and a girl unexpectedly entered the room, Kakashi, Sakura, and Naruto's friend were enjoying breakfast at Tezuna's house, wondering where Naruto had disappeared to. Kakashi gave Kyubi a look. He said, "Who's this, Naruto?" Then, while grabbing a piece of bacon, Naruto sat down at the table and said, "All you need to know is that her name is Q, and she's coming with us back to Hyde Village. A girl I recently adopted into my clan. If you didn't know I had a clan, then that's probably because it isn't your business, and you should stop asking. If you want to know more, talk to the headmaster." Knowing that he would not receive any further information, Kakashi simply shrugged his head. "Anyway, please do me a favor. I've never been very good at dividing my time between people, so I'm not very good at team training. While I assist Naruto's friend, would you mind showing Sakura a few things?" Naruto thought to himself. This could be a great chance to break Sakura of her fangirl mindset, as well as make her a bit less useless to the team. Naruto nodded. Fine. Even though he had previously mastered the Rasengan, it never hurts to practice, so Naruto made several Yami Bunshin and sent them off to practice. Sakura looked anxiously at the winged boy, wondering what kind of training he was going to have her do, and she almost jumped when he said, "Okay, what I'm gonna have you do first is an exercise called tree walking." Kakashi led them into a clearing a ways into the forest, one of the ones that wasn't destroyed, and led Naruto friend off to the side, leaving Sakura with Naruto. The goal of this practice is to focus and maintain your chakra on the bottoms of your feet. You can adhere to any surface because of this. As you can see, this skill also allows you to hang upside down. He walked up a neighboring tree and stood beneath a branch to demonstrate the method. He lowered himself and gestured for Sakura to try, saying, "It's easier if you walk," he suggested. "Place one foot on the tree at a time, until you can find the correct amount of chakra to use." Sakura approached the tree and placed one foot after another on it, making it to the top without falling, but she appeared to run out of chakra and fell off the tree, screaming as she fell, but a few black tendrils emerged from the shadows and caught her, putting her on the ground. She exhaled in relief. "How did I fare?" "You have low reserves but good chakra control," she inquired. "I want you to take something." He produced a tiny blue pill and gave it to Sakura, explaining that it was created by vampires for an unknown reason. It doubles or even triples a person's chakra reserves by forcing their chakra coils to expand. Why vampires would create anything like this is beyond me. It was most likely an unintentional discovery. Anyway, please accept this. Although there will be some discomfort, it will be worthwhile. Sakura swallowed the pill unsurely, and instantly felt pain all throughout her body, as though something were pressing out from within her. The pain subsided as fast as it started, and she felt more chakra inside herself than she had ever felt before. Your chakra appears to have tripled. The great thing about these tablets is that they let you maintain the degree of chakra control you had before. We can now discuss other topics. Right here. He gave her a small square piece of paper and said, "This will tell you what your elemental affinity is." Sakura received the paper and channeled her chakra into it. Half of it became moist, and the other half crumbled to dust. "So I have earth and water, right?" Sakura asked, glancing at the page. She asked. Naruto nodded. "Yes." He took 2 scrolls out of his shadow and gave them to Sakura, saying, "Hold on a minute, I have something here. These scrolls include a few Doton and Suiton Jutsu. Nothing more than C rank, yet if used properly, they can still be helpful in combat. I also want to demonstrate another jutsu for you. The Kagebunshin no Jutsu is the name of this. It enables you to make physical replicas of yourself that, upon dispelling, relay to you any new information they acquire. If you have the chakra to make them, they are helpful for training. You have enough chakra, in my opinion, to make roughly 5 and still have some left over for training." Naruto nodded in agreement and handed Sakura a 3rd scroll, saying, "This is a Taijutsu scroll." She triggered the jutsu after Naruto gave her the hand sign, creating 5 solid clones. It includes an archaic form known as the Hidden Fist, which is ideal for you because it doesn't require physical power. Pressure points and exploiting an adversary's strength are key components of the approach. As the clones read the jutsu scrolls, study it. Oh, and something else. Although this approach doesn't require extreme strength, I would nonetheless advise building muscle. In other words, quit worrying about your appearance and dieting. He cut Sakura off in her tracks as she was about to object, saying, "And for heaven's sake, get a haircut. If you are weak, no friend will ever adore you. In addition, I've heard that he enjoys short hair." As Sakura swiftly drew a kunai and cut off her long hair, her eyes widened, and she and her clones opened the scrolls and started reading. She read about the taijutsu style and practiced the basic postures while her clones pored over the jutsu scrolls. "Not exactly what I was expecting, but oh well," Naruto said, sweating. He shrugged and proceeded to see how his Yami Bunshin was doing, wondering what his Naruto companion was learning. In the meantime, with a friend of Naruto. After he kicked at the tree in despair after his companion fell off for what must have been the 100th time, he said, "Fucking tree!" he shouted, and a branch fell from the tree and struck him in the head as he kicked it.